This man's name is Ronald Kiger, and he was just awarded $10,000 for killing 20 pythons. And you know what? I don't have a problem with it. To be very clear, this man who killed all these pythons, do not go after him. He is a law-abiding citizen, and he is doing the ecosystem a favor, just to be perfectly clear. But there is debate if it is ethical to do what these people in this event do. And what I'm talking about is the Python Bowl. The Florida Python Hunt Challenge, sometimes called the Florida Python Challenge, is an annual 10-day event organized by the state of Florida to control the population of invasive Burmese pythons. Now keep in mind, this is a non-native species that is wiping out native wildlife, actually doing measurable damage, and this is regulated by FWC, although FWC does a lot of terrible things. The point is, there's actual ecologists and scientists that back this. This is not poaching, this is true hunting, and again, it's an invasive species that is threatening the ecosystem. However, when we talk about killing snakes, it's always going to be a hot button topic, so I want to hear from you, but let me tell you a little bit about it first. Or just leave a comment now, that's totally fine too. Burmese pythons are one of the largest snakes in the world. I have some, I love them, they are my favorite of the big snakes. They're from Southeast Asia, that is where they belong. Places like Indonesia and Thailand. They come from an area usually that is humid and warm. You know where else is humid and warm? The Everglades of Florida. And there are tons of Burmese pythons in Florida right now as we speak. They're breeding there like rabbits, which is hilarious because that's what they eat. And there's nothing we can do to stop them. But how did they get there in the first place? Well, it's not people just releasing pythons and then them breeding. What happened was in 1992, a giant hurricane, Hurricane Andrew, wiped out a ton of breeding facilities, private collections, but especially one very large breeding facility, and all of those pythons were released because of this Category 5 hurricane. The point is, they are there now, and there's really no way to get rid of them, totally eradicate them, but we can do our best to minimize the breeding population, and that's what this event is for in the first place. Not only that, but there's no natural predators, so the only predators really for adult Burmese pythons in the Everglades, I mean, sure, maybe an alligator might get one, but generally the only notable full-size predator is a human, and that's why humans are going out in the Everglades and trying to eradicate them, although they'll never probably do that. So the Python Challenge, Python Hunt, whatever you want to call it, happens usually in August every year. It's a rather new event. It started in maybe 2014, Matt will put it here, and then it was again in 2016, and then in 2020, they started it again, and they've done it every year since. It's a 10-day tournament, let's say, for people to find as many Burmese pythons as possible. And the reason that there's a reward is because they're doing a good thing. They're taking these things that should not be there out of the environment. And before we compare this to rattlesnake roundups, first of all, rattlesnakes are native in those populations. They are not ethically killed, and there's no reason to capture them in the first place. Burmese pythons, completely different thing. They shouldn't be there. They can't be there if we want a healthy ecosystem, and this money is actually helping conservation. Plus, the big thing, they are humanely killed. I want to get into that because that is very different than what I thought when I was writing this video and changed the entire tone of the way that I'm speaking about this event. To register, there is a fee of $25, and participants must take a required online training course, and all of them must have no prior convictions for fish or wildlife violations or animal cruelty. The competition rules generally align with the area regulations of the 7 competitive locations. And these pythons are allowed to be captured with traps or tools, including snake hooks, live traps, and most importantly, they must be killed humanely. Burmese pythons are actually protected in an anti-cruelty law. So, participants are required to abide by the American Veterinary Medical Association's recommendations for methods to humanely kill reptiles. And generally, there's a 2-step method regardless of what tools are used. So I'm gonna read these because this is exactly how they're written in the contest details. And if you do anything else, you are no longer legal, you are illegal in your actions. Think of this as like deer season. You have to use the right caliber. You can't go hunt for things in the wrong season. This is the very same thing, basically. Number 1, immediate loss of consciousness. Force must be applied to the brain so that the target immediately loses consciousness. Step 2, destroy the brain via pithing. A small rod must be inserted into the cranial cavity to substantially destroy the brain. Now, I do believe that you're allowed to use a gun to shoot the animal in the head. I know this is a weird thing for me to say out loud, and videos usually aren't like this, but at the end of the day, it's humane. You have to humanely euthanize these animals. You can't go sewing their mouths shut and making competitions and stupid stuff like that. So not only are we gaining money because the participants are paying $25 each, and there was over 800 participants this year. In total, I forget how many, it was thousands of participants at 25 bucks a piece. We are putting some money into conservation. And generally there's two categories. There's actually three, depending on what you read. I read a news article where there's a military category too, but generally there's an amateur and a professional category. Professionals are people who get paid, who are contracted by FWC and other places to go capture pythons. So they're legal and professional python hunters. And then there's people who are just amateurs who go and do it too. Two different categories. The main prize is $10,000 for the pros, and that was won by Ronald Kiger. Ronald Kiger took second place in 2023. He got 14 pythons that year, and this year he got 20. In total, almost 200 pythons were taken out of the ecosystem this year. 195, I think, was the exact number. And in total, it's crazy. There was over 800 participants, which means that not everybody got a python. In fact, almost nobody did. Now, the motivations of the people to go kill these pythons, that's one thing, right? I mean, personally, I have no interest in doing something like this. I mean, it's different. If you know, I knew someone who could prepare that snake and then people would eat it, okay, that's a different thing. My personal beliefs are if you kill something, you should eat it and use all of it. I know maybe I'm a hipty-dipty, but either way, I do agree. I understand that, you know, you can't just eat every one, or, you know, they have to be disposed of. They have to be taken out of the ecosystem. And if I'm going to get these questions in the comment section, I'm sure I will. I do all the time. Why can't they just be rehomed to people's collections? You just can't. Where are you gonna find a home for 200 plus of these big snakes? In total, it's been 14,000 of these that have been pulled out of the wild in total since they started keeping numbers. So where are you gonna put 14,000 of these snakes? Not only that, but they're wild caught, so now you're risking infecting whoever's collection it is. And just in general, there's not a home for 14,000 normal Burmese pythons. There's just not. It's just not gonna happen. So it's just unrealistic to do that, not to mention it's illegal to ship them out of the state. This is a tough one for me because I hate seeing snakes die, obviously, or any animals. I'm an animal lover, but also I understand hunting and what it does for conservation, and that's what this is. This is hunting. There is no comparison to this and a rattlesnake roundup at all. There's no comparison of this and poaching. That is not the same thing at all. We're taking these animals out of the ecosystem that shouldn't be there in the first place. This is different. If you go get a deer when it's not deer season, or if you go get a doe when it's not doe season, if you're going hunting for deer with a 22 in a place you're not allowed to, those are things that are illegal and I condemn. I think those are wrong things to do. But there are animals out there. A lot of places in the US, hogs, it's open season all the time. Take as many as you can because they're invasive and shouldn't be there. I'm cool with that, especially if you eat them, because, like, you know, it's good eating. And the same thing with pythons. I am totally okay if it means that some animals have to die so the animals that rightfully should be there and keep the ecosystem afloat can live. I think that's a good thing. Now, obviously, this is my personal opinion, but I want to hear from you. What do you think? How could we improve this event? Do you think it should be scrapped altogether? I just want your opinion in the comment section below. As always, thanks so much for hitting like and subscribe. You guys are the bomb. Thank you so much for the Patreon supporters. Discounts on merch, videos early. You guys get one-on-ones, all that, and more for as little as $1 a month. That's it. I do videos twice a week, so I'll see you in the next one.